Hi, the Stadtmuseum, or the Museum of the City of Berlin, is a public institution that dates back to 1874. It started by art enthusiasts in the city of Berlin who wanted to collect artifacts about the city of Berlin and make them available for the public. It started with the mission of cultivating, exploring, collecting and preserving works of art and other cultural assets relating to the history of the city of Berlin and make them available to the public in permanent exhibitions and also in temporary exhibitions of the usual museum scope, and evaluating the holdings for the science and popular education. The Stadtmuseum or the city or the Museum of the City of Berlin operates 5 museums here in Berlin, among them Märkischer Museum and Nikolai Kirche. Today we have the pleasure to welcome Martin Schäfer, Project Manager of Digital Medium. Thanks a lot for accepting our invitation.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Stadtmuseum?
Yeah, I would at first add also our digital mission. It's not in the official mission yet, but we try to make our collection also available online and to make it available and accessible for the public. And you mentioned 5 museums. We will also open up a 6th museum. There will be a Berlin exhibition at the Humboldt Forum from next year on. So this will be 2020.
Yeah. Actually, I had a look at your career and I was like very curious to know what made you actually join the Stadtmuseum.
Yeah, I'm not a typical museum guy, so I'm not an art historian. I admire all these colleagues and they have great knowledge, but I come from a different background. I was working in tourism before, and I kind of stumbled into the social media world when it was evolving. And I had worked for TV and for other companies, but I was always very interested in history. And Berlin, we always call it the Rome of the 20th century because everything happened basically in Berlin. Time you name it, and there was something going on in Berlin. And I was always very interested. I come from the outskirts of Berlin, but I was always fascinated by this city. And so there was this offer as a part-time job, and because it's a public institution, you know, it was back in the days. We're talking about 2013, so 6 years ago. They wanted to try this out. And as soon as I boarded, it was clear it's not part-time anymore, it's full-time, and it's not an experiment. We stabilize all this position, so there's an unlimited contract and we need to do this. And after the 6 years in social media, I'm now the project manager for digital media, so I moved a little from communications to digital innovations in general, like for the whole institution. And yeah, I was always very interested, and I can tell you it's the best job I ever had because there's history involved, there's people involved, there's art involved, and I can be creative with digital stuff, and there's a lot of new things will come up, and this is very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, from knowing you, I really can see the passion that you have for the museum field. Now, like, when you have visitors visiting museums, what are the top 3 things that you would love them to live with?
It's a mixture. I think I cannot really name 3 typical things, but I want the people to be edutained, right? They should take some education because people they're curious. So this is what I want them to leave with, that they felt entertained, but with a learning behind it. Not through the back door, no. It's like you go and then you might also the next day or a week after when you tell your friends, your family that you visited the museum, then maybe things come up again and you think like, hey, actually, this is a thought I never had before, or you should go. So it's the edutainment thing. People should stay curious. This is what I think. So we should make it possible to get them involved, to keep them involved, and that people go home and then maybe come back to the website, or even if they get lost on the Wikipedia, you know, that's totally fine with me. But to get them involved, and I think another thing is that we should be still open houses. So I'm very proud that that most of the museums, or museums in general, they are open spaces, and I think people our visitors should feel welcome, and should feel in a positive space. You know, they should come, they should have a good time. And we have to learn about those things still. But even if the person comes and just drinks a coffee in the cafe, not visiting us, that's totally fine, because they will come back if it's a nice place. And I think people also will get inspired. Even if you just have a coffee, you will come back, you have inspiration. This is probably the third thought I have. We should inspire people, and this is also where digital comes into play. Not as much as we wanted so far, but with open data and so on, it's just a little field. You can inspire people, and this is just like the beginning of remixing collections. Our collection has an estimated number of 4.5 million objects. This is a very big collection. It also has to do with the history of Berlin. During the separation, there were 2 Berlin museums. They both collected, of course. So this is also a reason why there is a variety, a big variety. And then we came together, and the foundation, like it is now, the official thing behind it, it's founded in 1995, and we are still developing. Yeah.
So you mentioned actually cafes inside museums. You also mentioned using like digital or technology to enhance the experience inside museums. How can you further enhance the experience inside museums? Do you have any other ideas or plans?
We're still looking for good things, and we are trying to experiment in the next years. We want to establish, this is our idea, to have a little lab situation. Like, we're still a little in the beginning, but it's like a sleeping beauty. Wait for it. Like we wait a little, and we need some time, and we need the resources. But believe us, if we wake up, then things will evolve and go through the roof, hopefully. So we are still observing. We are, of course, looking into VR. We are looking into AR. We are looking into mixed reality. We are looking into all these fields. And I think personally, there's a big thing coming still. We're in an early stage, I have to admit, but I think there's a very, very big potential in there. But also, we shouldn't do technical developments, or we shouldn't use everything what's possible. That's the other thing. Don't do digital because of digital. You know, use it to enhance and to enhance the experience. Use it to give the users and the visitors another dimension, another level. This is something we are looking into, and museums have developed, right? They are coming, like, museums are very old institutions, and sometimes old-fashioned institutions, but also there's a big movement of opening up collections, of opening up museums in general. And I think there's a big possibility to put another experiences, whatever that is, put other levels on top of we still have. Because for most of the museum workers and for most of our clients and customers and visitors, the object is still the focus. It's the magic of the object. But if we can enhance this magic with putting a sherry on top of it, right? And give the chance to see the magic from a total different angle. I cannot be very specific on this. This is just like, but these are things we are trying to develop. That you take the analog objects and make them into digital masterpieces, maybe.
Yeah.
This is an idea.
Yeah, that sounds super cool. And what are actually the main 3 challenges that are facing museums today?
I think it's always a question, of course, of budget,
Yeah.
I have to say. It's a question of resources. This is a big challenge, but we are working on it. So we are here in Berlin, and it's a super vibrant city, and it's the epicenter of startups, one of the biggest ones in the world. That's why you guys are here, I would say, right? And I like that very much, and it's a very interesting atmosphere, of course. And this is also a challenge, I would say, to have these young startups and these agile and very, like, you know, not even grabbable institutions. You know, a startup, what's here, it mustn't, there's no guarantee it will be there next year. That's a problem. And then you have an institution which dates back in 2 centuries before, 1874. We are not in the mindset of 1874, but we have this big tradition, and I think to combine this knowledge and this reputation and those treasures, 4.5 million objects, with the chances of digital, this is a big challenge, but we are facing it. And as I said, we try to be a lab. We try to establish something small. We are working close together with the authorities. There's money coming in for digitalization, and not only objects, but also for like educational programs and everything. This is a big challenge, and I think what's also another challenge. But there's the biggest chance in it to be relevant. If you ask the random person in the street, when did you went to a museum for the very last time, they probably can't answer this. Like this regular person, or with Märkisches Museum, this building is from 1908. Every school student has to go there, and this is the exact answer you get. When have you been there? Oh, with my parents or with my school when I was like 7. We want to change this. So, and this is also a great argument. I can say like, hey, we have actually a very nice permanent exhibition now with some digital aspects, with a great personalized audio guide. Come back and be surprised. And this is something also a big challenge to get to be relevant for the museums, to make sure, hey, we have those stories. We've seen it before. It can be art. I only mostly can speak for a history museum. We've been through it all, right? And history doesn't repeat itself, but you can learn from history, of course. And if you can make interesting stories visible, this is one of our big challenges, to get into the collection and to dig and to get it out there. And then you have the chance with like great stories, with great storytelling, to get viral. Yeah, and this is something very important, because then people think, oh wow, I've never had the idea they have such treasures. And then they tell other people. And then it's a chain reaction.
Yeah, super cool. Now, if you have like any last word, feedback, advice to people who are actually watching us.
I would say, I mean, you guys probably interested in art and culture, but think about a museum you never went. I think you, like, wherever you are in the world, just like look at on the map and think like, hey, what should I discover next? And because we are open places, we are much cooler than you think. And if there's a lot of work to do, maybe you volunteer. That's also something. You can go there. You can make recommendations. They also need feedback. We don't want to stay in our bubble. We want to talk to people. We are open places. And this is what I can encourage. Go to museums, talk to people, and then let's see where it takes you.
Yeah, so thanks a lot. Thank you very much. You have heard it. Go to museums. They have changed. They are open for you. So thank you very much for listening. And Martin.
You're welcome.
Thank you very
This was
much.
fun.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thank you. Yeah.